Oh yeah. Hello to everyone, and I hope things are okay, and you are trying all your best to make difficult things turn into more constructive and more positive, which is that we human can do. And I hope you have been doing this last 2 days. And myself, not very much in terms of the physically doing things. As I mentioned several times already, mentally, so many things. If last night I thought about if somebody really truly has clairvoyant on the one hand, in the ancient tradition. On the other hand, modern neurologists, if they truly have a capacity to read my brain and understand what I'm thinking, they all will sort of think, this monk is completely mad. What is going on in his head? So in the both traditional clairvoyance and the modern neurologists, both will be completely confused if they are able to see my brain. That's what I thought last night when I was sitting on the roof, just before my brother came, and looking the vast view and contemplating what's really going on in my head. And anyway, that is the case. And yes. Physically, there isn't that much, I'm doing here. Writing a little bit, reading a little bit, and doing some prayers a little bit. And having, short meetings on the phone call. And that's what I've been doing since I talked to you last time, 2 days ago. So I'm well, and the virus hasn't reached surrounding area, not only in the Tibetan community, but also the Indian towns and small villages around here. We haven't heard anything. It is quite difficult to understand, but there are some kind of structure. For example, every day at 5 p.m., the state government releases, the new cases of virus, people who got virus, and where they are, and their condition. And how many people passed away, not many, and also how many people recovered, and so on and so forth. So there's some kind of system here to at least to hold on to know what is going on. Otherwise, we are completely shut down. We don't know what's going on outside, even the nearest town, where we live, and that is how we are. Mm-hmm. So in terms of today's my blah blah, again going back to the pearl, and I would like to do this in relation to this what's his name? This in the UK. This retired army man called Captain Tom, and his activities, and which I thought is really seems captured by the people's heart and minds all over the world. And although he's simply walking, back and forth in front of that building, he might be, pension's house, I don't know, and walking back and forth. A very, very simple activity, but because of the circumstances, because of the conditions in which we have been talking about since we started to talk this, this crisis, how the virus come and how we, interact and so forth. So because of the situation or circumstances, make that very simple in the back and forth moving, 100 sort of, times, become very much, big events or the big thing. First thing is, I think he's 99, and second thing is raising money for the NHS, and the third thing is retired captain. I think there are many. Of course, then media captured the attention and bring this into, like the circle of things and the attention and so forth. And, the raise about 13 million pounds, originally just going to raise £1,000 for the NHS. And that is really something which we should think about. We should think about that some of simple things, when that simple things with the right heart, right intention, meet with the right conditions, then they become very big events or big things, which is something very, very helpful for us, to think about, whether our simple, the very simple and activity to support others, whether that captured this kind of what Captain Tom's action catched, or not. That's not really important. What is important is the action itself. That's what I want to look at. The small, simple action with the right attention, intention, and that sort of thing. And that's really something, which as I have been, we all been, I'm sure many of you doing that. Other day, one of my friends is saying, I know her financial situation is not that great, but still, she said she had been contributing small things to the different charities and things. Those are the things that then, in one of the sutras, Mahayana sutras, the meaning is this, when we make a small contribution, whatever, small contribution with a sincere heart to somebody or to some organization, whatever, and when, now I'm going to use the typical Buddhist terminology, when we dedicate that action purely for the sake of all living beings, for the sake of all, living creatures, then, that small, simple act with the right heart will become very, vast sort of, the positive thing. And the analogy is used in that sutra. That's what I'm going to say. Once we, drop a small drop of water into the ocean, then that small drop of water become one with the huge ocean. You can't take away that small drop of water from the ocean. As long as entire ocean remain, that small drop of water that you drop will remain with that. And that's what here in the traditional Mahayana Buddhist teachings have said, dedicate to think for the vows. Then, although small action is very small, contribution is very small, but that will become, to the sake of all living creatures, dedicate, and that sort of things, which is very nice. And there is a very nice quotation here. This is coming from, this quotation is from I think an English lady called Anne Radcliffe. Anne Radcliffe, seems 18th or 18th century. And I look at in the what you call the Google, who was that lady, and it seems very what is quoted in here, and her professional job is quite different. Anyway, but I will read that. Since she was, what did you call it? Now I forgot already. She was writing that kind of very, fiction writer. But her quotation here is very, very different from quote, one act of beneficence, one act of real usefulness is worth all the abstract sentiment in the world. So that is really very similar to what the captain, the retired captain, was doing. This very simple act. And sometimes, as I already mentioned several times, His Holiness Dalai Lama strongly, he says very often, put into action. Your positive thoughts, or positive whatever those ideas should put into action. Even that action is very small, but put into action. And that's what this lady seems saying, that one act of beneficence, some kind of useful act, one act of real usefulness, something very usefulness, actual action, is worth all the abstract sentiment in the world. The abstract. This is very often, there is a risk in the Buddhist, and particularly in the Mahayana Buddhists. We have lots of nice prayers and nice thoughts and nice, the visualizations and amazing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are in front of me, and I'm making offerings and I'm making prayers and requesting them to bless all sentient beings, lead to enlightenment. These are very, very good thought. But these are just, thought. These are abstract. Not in a real, in the sense, not in a real action. It's mental action. It is mental action. Mentally, you are very sincerely, purely thinking those. It is mental action, but when we talk about here, real act, we're talking about, from the mental action, mental sort of action, or the, thought, bring into real action. And that is here, which, very often, again, His Holiness Dalai Lama says, we should learn from our Christian brothers and sisters, have centuries, have a history of, going to these very, very difficult places and setting up hospitals, setting up schools, and doing many, other charity works. And that is really something, what His Holiness says we should learn from. I mean, we don't need to think about what is their motivation, what's their intention. That's the difference, different things. Whether their intention is for missionary to convert, those are the different philosophy. These are the different, thoughts. But we are talking about real action. Real action. And here, that is really something, when we do morning, setting our intention, and doing some simple, motivate, what you call the meditation, and short prayer, whatever prayer that you want to do, and a small, contemplative meditation, training our minds, transforming our minds, reducing the egoistic mind, self-centered mind. We can do that mentally, like for example, in the mind training, that amazing visualization of taking and giving, Tonglen. Those are very, very useful. But these, mental trainings eventually need to turn into real action. And that's what here, this guy, the retired captain, and today's the reading, very, very, nice to. We should think about that. We should think about that. We should, when I say these things, I'm not talking about only during this COVID-19 crisis. We should think about, people who just live this life until my last day comes. Continue, bit by bit. Or people who believe, there will be many lives in the future. Hopefully not many COVID-19s, but people who believe that, and then also those people also, set that kind of, that kind of vision. Of course, start from here, not leave it for the tomorrow. I like that story, and that I read this for many times, many years ago. So I've told this story many times in Jamyang, and I will tell you, some of people may not haven't heard this, so I will tell you that story. Story is this: there are two very, very good friends. They are very close friends. One is very, very clever, and one is a bit stupid or naive. And the clever man is, shortage of money. But that, naive, little bit stupid is, quite well off in terms of the money. So, but they are very, very good friends, but clever man is not getting that much financial help from his close friend, but he wants to take something. And but not getting any help. And so clever man thought, okay, I will try to get something from him. And he said, okay, I really truly need some financial, some money. I need to borrow from you. And his friend, who's a little bit well off, he said, okay, but we have to write down a contract. Otherwise, it's not good. Where our friendship will be ruined, And he said, yeah, I will write down, because he's clever, and he write down a contract. And in the contract, there's no date is put, but just said, I'll pay tomorrow. That is the story. So, and the little bit stupid guy, he said, okay, he will pay tomorrow, because tomorrow is very close, isn't it? Tomorrow. So he said, okay, then if he pays tomorrow, of course I'll lend him. So he lent him some money to his friends. But tomorrow, when he saw his friend is not hasn't got that money to return. And the person who landed, he said, okay, it's all right tomorrow. He may bring tomorrow, today he may not have it. So it continued like that, tomorrow. But one day the not clever man get a little bit sort of upset, and you said you're going to give me tomorrow. Yeah, I will give you tomorrow. Today is today, but I will give you tomorrow. So tomorrow never comes. So that is the story. So when we think about, when we have these kind of amazing, deeply believe that mind training, and not just mentally training, but put into action, the real action is something important, worthwhile. Then, not to wait for tomorrow, not to wait for when I retire, not to wait for, when I finish this job, or just do it, even if it is very small. You may do more during the retirement time, that's fine, but to do it even while you are working, even if it's very small. And that is really something important to, in Tibetan, we have this expression, I think it might be same you may have in English too, there's no guarantee which will come first, tomorrow or your death. Which will come first? We have no guarantee. And that is the fact, that is the reality. We really don't know. So therefore, even if it's very small, that we can do it right here or today, do it. Don't think I'll wait to have a bigger one or the larger one or more time, and that may cost big sort of lose, because there's no guarantee which will come first. So in the morning, the short setting your intention, and people who have it is useful, as I mentioned the other day several times, really give a little bit time to yourself. Yes, you might be very, very busy, for the, nowadays the health, the people who work in hospital and, old people's house, they are extremely busy, working 12 hours, 16 hours, yes, very, very busy. And many of us, many of you, I'm not in the West, so different. So I will not include myself. Many of us, many of you. So try to keep very busy. Yes, it is useful, and try to keep busy, but keep busy, in a meaningful way. Meaningful. In your list of busyness, put one extra list. In that list of busyness, what you need to do, put a list of doing short meditation. Just 5 minutes, 7 minutes, to give time to yourself a little bit. And that is something which we all can do. 5 minutes, 10 minutes is, I think, we have 24 hours, it's doable. Therefore, that sort of things. Then set your day, and then I keep saying that. And then, the training, whatever they inspired you, that good action, good sort of thing that inspired you, like this guy, inspired huge numbers of people. They think, oh, amazing. He's 99 years old and difficult to walk, but he, make that promise to walk back and forth 100 times, even, walking stick or that help support. And that kind of things, inspired many people. And of course, it is good to give money for his fundraising, but it is also important to think, what can I do? Small things. I watched that short clip on BBC about Captain Tom. There are very famous people saying, "Hello, Captain Tom, you are very inspiring, very admiring, very, very, you are a legend of..." Yes, that is true. That is true. But we ourselves can have a potential to become legend. We ourselves have a potential, can do like Captain Tom is doing. And that is important. That is really important not to forget. Not to forget, we have the potential too to do the things, what he is doing right now. So, and that is something which I want to. So that, then another short reading, which is also, this is also another lady. So today we have two readings from lady, and this is also very strange when I look at her background. She's from Russia, but it seems grown up in France, and she's also same time like this other lady, around the 18th century. So there is a transcendent power, transcendent. So there's a transcendent power in example. We reform ourselves, we reform others unconsciously when we walk, uprightly. So uprightly, I'm thinking about my understanding uprightly in the sense when we do the right things. That's my understanding. I don't know exactly what does that mean, uprightly. So in other words, saying, if we want to really help or support or, unhealthy behavior or anything like that, we don't need to go to see that person and hold at the collar and say, "Wake up, change your behavior." Don't need to do that. If we do ourselves correctly, rightly, then that other people will look at. They will learn from it. So those are the things what we're talking about, doing small things, but have a big impact. Big impacts. And what you call our human nature, particularly, I don't know whether I might be wrong, but our human nature, generally speaking, if we say I want to do something good for the others, we always want to do big things. Although that's right, that's good. But in reality, when the actual action, when you start to do, big things will come from the small things. Maybe there might be some exceptional cases. I don't know. One thing which I constantly thinking about, particularly these days, is this amazing American, guy called Bill Gates. And I think I've told this before. I read one book written by an American black guy. Not, I think he's a mixed race guy. I can't remember his name. And he wrote a book, from 19th and 20th century. Between those 2 centuries, people who are very successful, how they become successful. Why they are successful, how they become successful. And they share all these some are business people, some are writers, some are sports, many different fields. All many different, these people who are famous, including Bill Gates. One feature they all share is they have spent huge times in their field to become experts. That when I read that, and I thought, that is, I shouldn't mourn to say I don't have the bodhicitta because I don't spend that much time to have it. I remember that very, very clearly because I bought that book in San Francisco airport, San Francisco, California, San Francisco airport. And when I was there once or twice, I think once. Anyway, so I sent all my books and everything in my luggage. I was nearly empty-handed, just had a small bag. And suddenly, my flight was delayed for 2 hours or 3 hours. So then I thought, how am I going to spend that time today? So I went to this bookshop. And there's so many choices. But I bought that book. So, and I read that. And my reading is very, very slow, people who know me. But, and when I read, when this writer, he says, they all share the one feature why they are successful is they spend huge amounts of time. He put an hour number, I can't remember now, thousands of hours. They put all these people in the different fields, sports, business, technology. They all spend huge. And I thought that time, reading that book on a bench, that's why I haven't got bodhicitta, because I haven't spent that much time to have that. So that sort of things, really something important to remember. So this Russian lady, her name is not easy to pronounce, and Sophie Switchin, I can't pronounce it anyway, and Sophie. And she was born in Russia, and she said that, and I thought that's very, very good advice. Quite often we sort of go to the people saying you need to change, your behavior is not really right, your actions are not really good, you have to change, blah blah. We try to do that. What she is saying is, instead of that, we do rightly, correctly, positively, and that will get to the other people. And that's something here. And again, this coming back to this Captain Tom's, his action. He's doing that, and that inspired many, many people, which is very good. And now just remaining in the inspiration is not good enough. We ourselves should involve doing those small things to the benefit to the many. And particularly this kind of strange time, as I started today, physically I'm just more or less, sitting around this floor, round, doing nothing, moving one room to another room, and like that. Mentally, so much in here. So, that people live in big cities, as I mentioned the other day, normally when you have a kids, your husband, your wife, your partners, your don't see that much that often, or in that kind of long period of time. Because we, particularly in the West, we tend to keep very busy. I remember this very, very, very clearly, when I was in Norwich. Anyway, we tend to keep very, very busy, so we don't see that much to each other or have that come. Now, day by day, day after day after day, we are sitting under one roof. Maybe people who are lucky have a little bit more rooms. People who can't afford, they have just live under one or two rooms. And the tension might be boiling, as I mentioned the other day. So therefore, do some sort of small things which can support to yourself, to others, but same time following those advice, social distancing and all those things. But you can do that the captain is doing. But I'm not promising you are going to be able to raise millions of pounds. Don't think that. Okay. Yeah. So thank you once again to listen, and keep well, keep safe, be cheerful. The other day somebody sent me many clips of the many different images who are very cheerful, and just I think a minute and a half length, many different images, and said this will cheer you up, and I look at that and wow, that is human face. How that small children can do that? That's very strange face. And so cheer up. Thank you.